Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everybody here. My name is Peter Andrews. I'm one of the organising committee team members of the Hay Marketing Network. And I'd just like to say thank you for joining us all. We're a small group of volunteers that put these sessions together because we're really passionate about sharing insights and best practice in marketing in the region. And we try to create these events for marketeers, small to medium business, or anyone interested in marketing communication or consumer insights and customers, or just those that want to grow their business that have got anything related to marketing. So we typically host about 6 of these a year. And you can keep in touch with us on LinkedIn and Eventbrite. We've got the next few events already sorted out, but if you've got any ideas or anything that you would like to see running in the future, please let us know. You'll see a few of us around before and after the session as well. And we're also looking for people, if you're interested in joining the committee, the team that puts this together. We're not really a committee, are we? We're more of a bunch.
Sounds formal, doesn't it? Yeah.
Sounds far too formal if we say that we're a committee, but it'd be good if you are interested, do let us know. Mobile phones, a few domestics. Mobile phones, switch them to silent if that's okay. We're not expecting any fire alarms, but if there is, then just we go down to the bottom and straight out into the area where the heads are, is the fastest way out. And if you need the toilets, men's are on this level just outside there, ladies just down one as well. I'd just like to say a quick thing about our partners. What's this one, isn't it? Too many screens here. A special thanks to University of Hull. Obviously I work at the University of Hull. I work in international in the business school. But they give us this venue, let us use the space as well. So I always like to say a quick thank you. And you will see that there's a whole host of courses that the University of Hull Business School run. Also courses on AI and things on creative business. So if you are interested at all, come and speak to me, or you can check us out on the internet. There's a couple of QR codes there as well that talk about one of the courses. Many of them are funded as well. So do have a look at those. Many times. So you should know what you're up for tonight. It's about unleashing your inner copywriter. And it gives me the pleasure for me to say a few words about Will Slater. And I'm really delighted to be able to introduce Will. Usually, at this point, I get out a huge document of all the achievements and everything that the person has said that they have done over their lives. But this time, Will's given me something quite different. I think I would say he sent me, how should I put it, some interesting points in bullet point form is his bio. So with this in mind, I tried to put something together that I think will introduce Will and capture his wit, his warmth, and his understated brilliance. Because I find that he's extremely understated, and I find that with a lot of really creative people, that they don't always value the things that everyone else does and can be understated in the things they've achieved. So here goes, and you'll tell me whether I've got this right or not. So Will Slater is a copywriter at Hull-based agency 43 Clicks North, where he spends his days turning ideas, insights, and occasionally chaos into words that actually work. He's written for a wonderfully diverse range of clients and spoken about the craft of writing, both at Brighton SEO and CopyCon, 2 of the most important or biggest marketing events in the UK. Now, before copywriting took over his life, Will had a go at just about everything else, according to the bullet points that he sent me. From marketing roles at the East Riding Council at the University of Hull, to teaching, photography, and for one glorious but financially questionable spell, selling books. His creative adventure has seen him exhibit a naked self-portrait at the Ferrens Art Gallery, strictly in the name of art, of course. He's also cycled across the UK off-road, grown a beard that constitutes roughly 70% of his body weight, and he also shares his home with Mango, a cat which I can attest to this, enjoys minor LinkedIn celebrity status. Now, Will also insists that he's going to finish writing a novel next year, So we are holding him to that as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce you and pass you over to Will, who's our creative content specialist. Thank you.
I'll do this. I feel like my witty comeback and riposte there has been ruined slightly by faffing around with a microphone. Oh, we go. Is that on? No. Bear with me. I need to talk really quickly as well because I've got loads to fit into it. There we go. Excellent. Good to go. And now I need to get my presentation up. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's a good start. Let's see. So, there we go. Right, I'm ready now. You can start paying attention. So like Peter said, tonight I'm going to talk to you about copywriting. But before we get into the copywriting, I want to just talk for a little bit about writing. Because if you can't write well, just writing, you can't write good copy. It's a foundation that everything is built on. And it's something that quite often gets forgotten. You see a lot of learn to write copywriting fasting. And if you've not got those basics, you're never going to be any good. Don't worry, it's not going to be like a GCSE English lesson or anything like that. It's going to be fun. We're not going to talk about prepositions or apostrophes, but if you do get apostrophes wrong, we can't be friends. And I do regularly start sentences with the word and, just in case anybody was wondering. So to start off with, I want to talk a little bit about what exactly is good writing. Now, to be fair, I think this is quite a nebulous concept and it depends on what you're writing for and who you're writing for and all sorts of other different factors. So let's narrow it down a bit and let's say, what is good commercial writing? Writing with purpose. So it could be anything like an email, it could be a sales page, anything you're writing for business, I guess. So does anyone have any ideas what the most important thing about that kind of writing might be? Anyone want to stick your hand up? I told you there's going to be. Brilliant, somebody else.
Who's the reader?
Who's a reader? Yeah, that's really important. Absolutely. We'll talk about that more later on. Anybody else? Any other ideas? There's no right answer here. There's lots of right answers, really.
Clarity?
Yes! 10 points. The most important thing for me about good writing is absolutely clarity. Because if your writing's not clear, if people don't know what you're talking about, then everything else, and it is really important who you're writing to as well, but everything else just becomes useless because it's not there. Instead of creating a bridge between your mind and the person you're trying to write to's mind, you've sort of set up a big chunky wall instead, which is the opposite of what you want to achieve. Now, it sounds pretty obvious that when I say it out loud, but it's something that is really often people get really, really wrong. And I can attest to this, school emails are terrible for this. About us pages on websites, everything, posters on bus stops, especially ones that get commas wrong. So much stuff, we just see so much stuff that just doesn't make any sense. Or even worse, it makes you work too hard to actually be able to understand it. So I want to show you a little example of what I mean. I'll read this out. We are a leading UK provider of managed IT services. This is a real from the front page of an IT service website. Our purpose is to empower organisations with innovative solutions and expert support, enabling them to deliver vital services for the sectors and communities they serve. Another pro tip, if you read something out loud and you're out of breath by the end of it, it's probably not great. So what I want to do is break this down a little bit about why I think it's not particularly clear and then build it back up again and try and make it a little bit more clear. But before I do that, does anyone want to kind of suggest what is maybe not brilliant about it? Anybody? Oh, lady at the back.
It's not clear who they're talking to.
Exactly, yeah, that's a really good point.
Who are they?
Exactly.
They, sir. Who are they?
Yep, really good point.
Pronouns, problematic.
So for me, one of the biggest problems with this bit of text is the sheer amount of words that are either, just a sheer amount of words, Sarah's laughing, that are either more complicated than they need to be, or they're just completely redundant. And this is a really, really common thing. People tend to think they need to use big words and they need to say a lot to prove that they're an expert at something, but actually, and Einstein actually backs me up on this, if you really want to show you're an expert on something, explain it to a 6-year-old. Anybody can use big words, but be able to break a concept down into something really simple is a lot harder. So I've highlighted some of the bits I particularly don't like about this. Our purpose. No client cares what your purpose is. Nobody wants to be empowered. It doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares how innovative your solutions are, whatever the solutions might actually be in this context. I hate the word enabling. People just want you to tell them exactly what it is you're going to do for them and how it's going to help them. Everything else is just noise. So our purpose is to empower. In this context, basically means we provide. It's what we do, right? Innovative solutions. So what solutions to what? Sudoku? Wordle? Resident Evil? We don't know. It's just one of those horrible, generic, meaningless phrases that people put in there because they think it makes them sound clever, but actually it has the opposite effect. So I've kind of taken a bit of a guess at this one because I didn't want to read the entire website and find out exactly what they do, and I probably wouldn't have understood it anyway. So I've gone with reliable infrastructure because that feels like something that IT people would probably want. Enabling them to deliver. I get a bit of bile in my mouth just reading that out, honestly. It sounds so conceited, like how could this client possibly do their job without your IT innovative solution, whatever it might be. And it's just needlessly complex. You wouldn't say, can you just hold my drink to enable me to go to the toilet? So why would you write it? So we simplify. So just as a bit of a reminder, this was the original text. Now, if I was rewriting it just to make it clearer, just to make it easier to read, it would look something like this. We are a leading UK provider of managed IT services. I actually don't mind that bit. It tells us what we're doing. We provide organisations with reliable infrastructure and expert support. Simple. Exactly what we do. It's not the greatest bit of copy. It's not got a load of character. I've also taken off the last sentence, which was enabling them to deliver vital services in the sectors and communities they serve, because actually the client knows what they do. They know what communities they serve. They don't need you to tell them that. So this example obviously is a website. But it literally, this concept, this idea, applies to everything you write. From a WhatsApp to your mum, to an email to your boss, to a CV, to a sales letter. The simpler, the more clear you can make it, the better you're going to get your message across. If the person reading it doesn't understand it, you've wasted your time and theirs. And I've definitely had conversations like that with my mum on WhatsApp. So that's where you build everything from. You start with the clarity. Everything else follows on from there. So when you're writing and somebody else reads it, there are at least 2 points where that message in your brain that you're trying to get into somebody else's brain, at least 2 points where that message can get confused. So there's a point where you translate the idea in your brain into words on the page, and then there's a point where they read it and get it back into their brain. 2 points, minimum. But the thing is, we're always adding in extra points of confusion. So I'll give you an example, and this is apparently a real example. Apparently a real chain of orders from the US military in Vietnam in 1967. I'll read it out for you. Division HQ to brigade, written order. On no occasion must hamlets be burned down. Bridge to battalion, radioed order. Do not burn down any hamlets unless you are absolutely convinced that the Viet Cong are in them. Battalion to infantry, radioed order. If you think there are any Viet Cong in the hamlets, burn it down. Commander to troops, spoken order. Burn down that hamlet. So we've gone from definitely don't burn that thing down to burn that thing down. And that's not actually many points of confusion. That's just 4 stages that message has gone through. Every link you put in that chain adds more potential for confusion. Now, you're probably thinking, that's not really relevant to me because I'm not in Vietnam in 1967, and that's a valid point. But if you've ever used something like ChatGPT or Claude to write, then it's really relevant to you. Because you're introducing another link into the process, another possibility for that message to get confused. I don't want to do that, help. And it's actually the worst possible link for confusion, because AIs don't actually understand what they're writing. When you put that message for a human, they've got some concept of what you're writing. They understand what you're talking about. They've got lived experience. AI has none of that. Remember when Gemini told people to put glue on pizzas to make the cheese stick together? That's because Gemini has no idea what pizza is, no idea what cheese is, no idea what glue is, and no idea what sticky is. It just mulches the words, the letters together. So what we're going to do now is take a little bit of time and talk about how you can make your writing clearer. That was an intentional pause so you can digest that statement, because that's actually probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. If you can make your writing easy to process, so your reader has to do as little work as possible to understand your message, and so there's no ambiguity to what the actual message is, whether you burn the thing down or you don't burn the thing down, you're going to be off to a great start. And a great way to make things easy to process is to use simple language. If you go on LinkedIn and you follow copywriting advice kind of people, you'll often see things saying you should only ever use small words and you should never use jargon. And there's an element of truth to that, but like a lot of stuff you read on LinkedIn, it's only half the truth, because it's an easy thing to say. Because a better way to say it is use appropriate language for your audience, but don't overcomplicate it. Because if you're writing for an audience that's got really complex concepts, or an industry that uses a lot of jargon, of course you're going to use that jargon, of course you're going to use big words. Because otherwise you're going to be waffling around and you're going to be using 20 words to explain something that you could have just said in one. So you only use big words when they're the simplest option, they're the easiest to process option. But make sure it's only then. If you can use a small word, if you can simplify, you probably should do. But knowing what's right for your audience is absolutely key here. I told you we'd come back to audience. Because you need to talk the way they want to be spoken to. And looking at competitor pages and other publications is not necessarily a good barometer of this, because they'll probably be really jargony like everything else is on the internet. So what you really want to do is actually talk to your audience. If you can actually get in a room with them and have a conversation about whatever the thing is you're writing about, brilliant. If you can't, talk to the sales team. Sales teams are always talking to them. They know how people speak. If you've got recorded sales team calls, that's really good. If you can get on places like Reddit and forums where professionals in this industry, whatever it might be, are talking amongst themselves, you'll get a feel for the jargon and the language that they actually use, and you can start to write in the same way. Now, if you only do one thing, if you keep it as simple as you can, I can pretty much guarantee that your writing is going to improve. But that is really only the tip of the iceberg. So here are a few other things you might want to consider. Another common advice that you often see on LinkedIn is that you should always use short sentences. Some wonderful writers agree with this. I wish I'd said this. It was actually a French author and pilot called Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, which I've been practicing pronouncing all week. He wrote The Little Prince, which is a wonderful book if you want to read it. But I love it, and I think it applies really perfectly here. I'm just going to read it out. Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. I think you can apply that to so many things. Pare it back as much as you can. Leave it for a couple of days and come back to it, and take out all the words that don't need to be there. So every single word that in your writing is serving a purpose. It's in service of the message. But there is a caveat to the short sentences thing. Because if you only use short sentences, and they're all the same length, that gets really boring. And if your reader's bored, they're working harder to process. And that's the opposite of what we want. So another much more talented writer than me said this much better. So again, I'm going to read this out, but I'm going to have a drink first because it's quite long. So this is a guy called Gary Provost. I think he died in the mid-90s. Wonderful writer. This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, If several together become monotonous, listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. Now listen, I vary the sentence length and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences, and I use sentences of medium length. And sometimes, when I am certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns with energy and builds with all the impetus of a crescendo, the roll of the drum, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important. So write with a combination of short, medium and long sentences. Create a sound that pleases the reader's ear. Don't just write words, write music. And what you'll find is, if you read out what you've written, and you read it like that, it's probably pretty good. If you read it and you find yourself getting bored, it's probably not so great. Now, I'm going to talk very briefly about AI. We'll get back to AI more a little bit later on. If you follow any of the kind of AI hustle bros on LinkedIn, you've probably read the term semantic chunking, which makes me want to hurl chunks a little bit, to be completely honest. But actually, when you break it down, when you simplify it, it's quite good advice. Because what it means is use paragraphs, which is great advice. Because if your audience is reading online, or especially if they're reading on mobile, having things broken up makes it so much more easy to scan and to process. So let your words breathe, let your paragraphs stay nice and short and to the point. Another thing about writing for the web is that people don't always read linearly. And I found this quite shocking, but there's actually research that sort of proves this. People skip around, they scan through the headings, they skip to the end, they just read the bits they want. I read everything properly because I'm a nerd. But what you want to do is make it easy for people to do that. And so make sure you've got really well structured, logical headings that tell people exactly what they're going to get. Ideally, if you want people to be able to scan the heading list of your article and get the gist of what you're talking about. Also really good for Google. If you're writing for the web specifically, make sure you're using good heading tags. Have you heard of TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read? Anybody heard of it? Some people are nodding, that's good. So it's shorthand for where you just sum up whatever it is you're writing. It's often attributed to Reddit, but actually it goes way back further than that to Usenet groups in the 90s, I think. But it's a brilliant way to get people engaged in your article because it tells them whether it's worth them reading on. It tells them, if you start with a TLDR, it tells them exactly what they're going to get and whether it's relevant to them, which is brilliant because then they're going to read on. It might also tell them that it's not relevant to them, but that's brilliant too because if it's not relevant to them, they're reading, they're going to be really annoyed because you've wasted their time and nobody likes having their time wasted. Google also loves TLDRs because it makes it easy for it to index your pages. Right, this is my last tip for now, but it's a really important one. I mentioned earlier about leaving something for a couple of days and then coming back to it. And if you want to write better, this is not negotiable. Absolutely, 100% must edit your work. Even if it's just going for a wee or having a coffee before you click send on an email. Ideally, if it's important stuff, you want to leave it for a day or two and then come back to it. And the best way I've found to work is to write fast. Bash it out, your first draft, quickly. Don't worry about it being good, because it's not going to be. Just get all those ideas down on the page and then put it in a folder, come back to it in a couple of days. And then edit it. Go through with a really analytical eye, shorten it, simplify it, get rid of all the typos that you've noticed left in there. But don't try and edit while you're writing, because I've tried this, and what happens is you spend 4 times as long writing, and then you have to go back and edit it anyway, because your editing brain is different to your writing brain. It just is. So I think I've probably talked long enough for now. So what I want you to do, I'm going to set a timer for, how are we doing for time? 5 minutes. And I want you to have a go at rewriting this bit of copy, just for clarity, using the stuff we've chatted about, or I've chatted about so far. And I've specifically given you something that's not too horrendous. to give you something to work on. Believe me, I work with a lot worse things than this. But to make it a bit more interesting, when I start the timer, we're going to do a little experiment. I'm going to come over to Peter and I'm going to whisper him a message. And I want him to whisper it to Emma. And then I want you to whisper it all the way around that table, and all the way around that table, all the way around all the tables until the message has got right to the back of the room. And just to make it even more interesting, when you're passing that message on, you're not allowed to repeat yourselves. Okay, so 5 minutes starting now.
They can't repeat what I said.
No, you say it to them, and you're not allowed to repeat what you said. So you can say what you think I said,
Oh, right.
and then you say what you think Peter said.
So you only say once, basically.
No, I can't remember what it was.
So I can't repeat it.
Okay.
Say this to the beginning.
Please feel free to chat about your ideas. Working in a group is always helpful for writing, I found, especially if you're sat in Sarah's team.
Okay.
Well, no, that's the issue.
Have 1 minute.
So,
I'm going to count you down to make it even more stressful.
variety of industries.
Just pass on your best guess if you're not sure what it was.
We help clients achieve more.
We help clients.
Put it into
And then you
We have clients like you, businesses like you.
So do you work with a lot of clients that have?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when
That's my thought.
Yeah.
Halfway.
Yeah, so the last role I worked for full-time parts of recon, but that was the opposite of this. But yeah, I was thinking like public sector. So when I came into that, yeah, so when I website, a lot of the things there, right? I've had to kind of say to them, even when you write something, yeah, I'm like, cause I'm like campaigns and communications, so I have a lot of public relations. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I've done like internal like writing training workshops, so this is like an hands-on so yeah, whenever I do like like distillate to what we're trying to say. There's a lot of work with like children and teachers, yeah, people who said like experts, like they would just go through reading information.
I think so.
To know what you're talking about.
We've got 1 minute left.
Yeah. That works in the I worked with before. We provide yeah, they got words in it, and then yeah, now it's this year, I think images, yeah, and like reaction.
Half a minute to go.
Clients across the world.
I think hot clients
Across the board and across the industries. Across the industries already means across the
I should have the countdown music for this, shouldn't I?
So we operate as
10 seconds.
SWAS. Want to say it?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pens down. Feels like an exam test, doesn't it? Right, so before we go any further, how far did the message get?
It died here.
Well, my point has been proven then. Right, who's got the message? Are we still going? 5 minutes you had, blimey. I've got a lot to fit in.
Okay.
I can't believe I can't use any of them words.
Right, so what did the message end up as?
The message that I got was, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So the message that started was that, which apparently I've typoed, the meaning of a complex message is often lost as it is passed through multiple touch points.
Yeah, touch point and message got confused.
So I think the point of multiple touch points and points of confusion has probably been proven. Right, so moving on. Does anyone want to Does anyone want to share what you've come up with as a rewrite for this? Did anyone manage to get anything?
Well, yeah, half of it.
That's, in 5 minutes, half of it is incredible.
We work with global clients to drive digital innovation with a strong work ethic, and I'm lost on the final bollocks. Sorry.
It is a bit bollocks. That's a really good
I don't
start.
understand it, so I don't even understand what they want. So I think it's about global clients driving digital innovation and strong work ethic to do something
To do
with
some shit with computers.
something techie, something, I don't know.
I'd say that's a pretty damn good start, to be honest. I like how you've broken it down and tried to figure out what it actually means. There's a hand up at the back.
Yeah.
Well, we went with something along the lines of, we work with clients to provide solutions for digital workplace, cloud and business process solutions, because we just thought it was a bit, I don't care where your clients are from. I literally, yeah, so we just thought, just tell us what I do.
Yeah, spot on. Perfect.
But what you do is
Yeah.
That's very short. Can you transform how your employees experience digital systems from enterprise computing to cloud?
Nice.
yeah, very good. Yeah.
I think I was maybe a bit cruel when I gave you this, because you're right, it is bollocks. But this is what we have to work with a lot of the time. This is what clients think they should talk like. The amount of crap I see like this is absolutely incredible. It's mind-blowing.
This looks like it's been written by AI.
It may well have been. I did actually pull this from an actual website. I didn't cheat and get AI to write absolute gibberish.
The website might have written it on AI.
Oh, they may well have done, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit later about why you shouldn't write with AI.
I rise to speak.
Sorry?
I rise to speak.
Okay.
Sorry, it's the AI that is used by the MPs.
Oh, yes,
I
yes,
rise to
gotcha.
speak.
Yeah,
I use the
gotcha.
Americanisms.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sorry,
Oh,
just
yeah.
off the cuff.
Right. Do I have to talk about AI? I said I would, so we're going to have a little bit of an AI detour for a few minutes. There are some massive disadvantages to getting AI to write for you. Massive, ginormous. But there are some useful AI tools that can help your writing process if you use them sensibly. And it can give you more time to actually do the good stuff, like actually writing. But first up, I am going to have a bit of a rant about AI writing. So let's just dispel a myth first. AI is not intelligent, not like us. All it does is mulch up the internet into its own approximation of language. Doesn't understand what it's reading, it doesn't understand what it's writing, it's got no experience in the real world. It's just a very good pattern recognition and generation machine. And what that means is that while it can churn out words that are in a grammatically correct order, because it can follow those rules, and it can do something that vaguely resembles what you've asked it to do in your prompt, because it looks at other stuff that's similar. It does waffle a lot and just talk crap, as we noticed. But another big problem with it, it gets stuff really wrong, which is a big problem, whatever you're writing for, because accuracy is important. Now, I will admit that if you spend enough time really learning how to prompt AI, and you spend a lot of time checking it for accuracy, you can probably get something out that's not complete shit. But you're still adding in extra points of confusion. You're still risking stuff being wrong. And most importantly, you are missing out the most important part of the writing process. Because when you write, when you plan and you research and you start putting stuff together, you're thinking, you're learning, your understanding about that thing grows exponentially. Often, when I start planning a piece of writing, what I end up with is completely different, because I've learned about what I'm writing as I'm doing it. And if you just stick a prompt into ChatGPT, you're losing all that. You're outsourcing your thinking to a machine. You're losing your power of thought. How is that ever a good idea? So that's my feelings about whether you should use ChatGPT to write or not. But I don't hate all of it. I just think we need to be really careful about how we use it and the skills that we lose by doing so. So I'm going to talk about a few ways that I do use AI, or AI adjacent tools, I guess you could call them, that I think probably do help me with my writing, especially when you've got to churn stuff out to a quick tight deadline. So getting it to review your writing can be really helpful. Ideally, you want to get a human being to review your writing. It's much better. Other people will pick up stuff that you've done because it's in your head. You're too close to it. But you can't always get a real person to take that time because people are busy. So you get an AI to do it for you. So you can upload your article and get ChatGPT or whatever it is to critique it for you. You need to bear in mind that AI is a sycophant. It will tell you what you want to hear. So you need to specify it. You need to tell it not to do that. Tell it to be a copy editor. Tell it to be brutal. It still won't be that brutal, but try. You can ask it really specific questions as well about how you've tried to match a certain style and use it that way. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't ever suggest that you just stick a whole article into an AI and say, please make this clearer, because it won't. It'll make it more gibberish. And then because it's a huge long article, you won't be able to tell what gibberish it's made, and you'll just be in more of a mess than when you started. But if you're struggling with a sentence or a paragraph, and you just can't get it to work, stick it into ChatGPT and get it to rewrite it 20 times. All of those 20 times will probably be a bit rubbish, but they might just give you that impetus to think of it in a slightly different way, come at it from a different angle, and the 21st one that you write will be the one you actually needed. Ask it how it's made it clearer as well. If you ask it to make a sentence clearer, ask it how it's done it, to get an idea of the understanding of how it's done it, because it has got reference to the entire internet, which has got a lot of things about writing goodly on it. There are also some writing apps which I find quite useful. There are 3 that I use pretty much every day, so I'm going to talk about those. They're not all strictly AI, but mostly they include AI-ish options, so I'm counting them. And they're really useful, which is more important. So you might have heard of Grammarly. It's a little app that you can add to your Word or your Google Docs that just automatically corrects all your typos and underlines stuff that it thinks is wrong for whatever reason. If you're old enough to remember Clippy in Word, it's a bit like that on speed, only not shit. Just on its own, the autocorrect in Grammarly is brilliant. I find it a lot better than the built-in ones in Word or Google Docs. It's a lot better at recognising context in the context of what you're writing. It seems to understand stuff that a little bit better. Do make sure you set it to UK English, unless you're American. Obviously, then it's fine, because it will auto-correct stuff to American, and then you look like you're American, I guess. Its grammar checking capabilities are really good as well, especially if you hit apostrophes. It also has an AI tool which will suggest rewrites based on clarity and readability. You do need, I think, the paid version to get the full access to this. But actually, I prefer the free version, because if you use all the suggestions in Grammarly, you're just sort of rounding off all the corners on your writing and making it the same as everybody else who's using Grammarly, and losing all your character. So that's generally not what I want in my writing, certainly. The second one is, there's a few websites like this, but this is my favourite one. It's a website that checks your writing for clarity and readability. And then it ranks it based on popular things, which I really like. It doesn't tell you why it thinks it's unclear or otherwise, it just gives it a rank. So I don't know how well you can see that, it's probably possibly a little bit fuzzy, but it ranks it by things like a Harry Potter novel or Paradise Lost. Generally, for most of my clients, I aim somewhere between Brian Cox and Harry Potter, give or take, but it depends on the audience and what you're talking about. If you're writing in academia or you're writing in science, for example, you're probably going to be further down that list, and that's fine. Same with all these things, don't be beholden to it, but it's a good yardstick. And I'm just wanting to add that I am quite proud that I once wrote a LinkedIn post that scored a 0 on it. Although I would question whether it's actually harder to read than On the Origin of Species. And I'm not going to read it out to you because I don't think I can read it out without having to have a nap in between. The last one is any literature fans in the audience? You're my friends. Ernest Hemingway was a writer, and he was really famous for his use of really simple language and like a real economy of phrase. What this app does, you paste your content into it, and it highlights complex sentences, gives them a ranking by colour, and it'll highlight weak words and passive voice as well. It's pretty simple, but it's really powerful. Again, the paid version has an AI suggestion tool which will tell you what it thinks you should rewrite to. I don't like that because I'd rather rewrite it myself, and sometimes I don't agree with it anyway. But the combination of these three tools is really powerful. Just beware that you don't get too beholden to them. Don't lose your voice by using these tools. Another thing I use AI for is research. Despite talking earlier about how it's not very accurate, there's a couple of ways that I do this. My favourite research tool by far is an app called Perplexity. Has anyone heard of Perplexity? Excellent, good stuff. So you probably know it's not a do-all solution, it's what they're now calling, I think, an answer engine. So it's meant to be an alternative to search engines. So you ask it a question, it Googles it, pulls in loads of different websites, and then smooshes it down into a nice, easy answer. And you can then ask it more questions based on the answer, which is brilliant. It's a bit like Google I Mode, except it's been around for way longer, and I think it's much better. I also find that it's a lot more accurate, because obviously when you're researching, you need to know stuff is right, otherwise you just might as well make it up. I find Perplexity is a lot more likely to get stuff right, and it also references stuff really well, so you can go check it and actually make sure whether it is accurate or not. I work with some really quite niche clients, and a lot of the stuff I need to research can be really badly written and dry. So using Perplexity saves me from having to wade through thousands of words of that stuff that you just had to rewrite. It does all that for me. It gives me a nice summary, which makes my life much easier. Another thing I like to do for researching is, does anyone use custom GPTs in ChatGPT? Not so many, yeah, a few. So custom GPTs, you can basically build an automated tool to do tasks for you in ChatGPT. It's really simple. I think you need a paid version to be able to do it. But what I've built is, it analyses pages for me. So if I'm writing for the web, it's really useful to be able to analyse competitor pages, and a lot of them are also often really boring. So what this GPT does is, all I have to do is paste in 4 or 5 URLs, It will then analyse them for commonly used phrases, topics, sentiments, and you can then question it further on what it's given you as well. So it gives you a really good snapshot of what the successful pages, the ranking pages for a subject are all doing, rather than having to go through and read them all and make notes and cross-reference, which takes hours and can be quite interesting sometimes, but it's time that you don't always have. So you get to spend more time writing and editing and less time reading really badly written pages. Now, before I finish talking about AI, because that's enough AI for one night, I think, I am going to get a little bit serious for a minute. Because there are some things I think we all should think about when we're using AI. Build new frontier and all that, but that means we're kind of playing catch up all the time. So is anyone French in the audience?
Not French, but French speaking.
French speaking, you'll probably get this one then. The most important thing, most serious thing about ChatGPT is that in French, ChatGPT, chat je peux, means cat, I fart. Which I think is brilliant. I'll never find fart jokes that are not hilarious. But there are a couple of actually serious things you do need to consider as well. The first thing is security. Anything you put into an AI, whichever one it is, once it's in there, it's never coming out. You can't, there's no retrieve button, there's no undo button. It's in that data set. And if you're just putting in an article that's going to be live on Google in a couple of weeks, probably not a problem. But if you're putting in confidential client data, you could be on very shaky ground. So just be careful. Check, AI use policies. Think about what you're putting in there. Just be careful. And then there's the ethics of AI, and I could probably do a whole session just on that if I wanted to. But a few things to think about. Where has AI learned from? What's it been trained on? Are you comfortable with where it's got that data from? Is it biased? Just as an experiment, try prompting a chatbot to draw a picture of some people with no other context and see what you get. Are you all right with the amount of energy and water that AI is using? Now, I'm not saying don't use it. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer to this. A lot of the other things we use, cloud storage, Google, all have similar problems. But I do think it's important to think about these things and ask the questions. I also think it's important that that's enough being serious about AI for tonight. Promise you copywriting, and copywriting we shall have. So, before we start, what is copywriting? What's the difference between copywriting and just writing? Anybody want to have a go? Oh wow, nobody. Nobody knows.
To sell something as opposed to explain something, to be compelling.
Yeah, good answers. There's no right answer to this. I think there's no official definition of what copywriting is, but I think it's useful to try and understand what we mean when we say it. So anybody else want to chuck someone in the ring?
For a particular client, it's tailoring, or you're trying to, I guess, you're trying to express something that the client wants the customer to be hooked on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
There's a hook that has to be there of some sort, and that's our advertising colleagues should be able to chip in there, I think. Yeah.
All good. So for me, for the purpose of today, I'm going to say that copywriting is writing commercially and persuasively. Back in the old days, it was pretty much specifically writing for adverts, but that's shifted. We've got brand copy and SEO copy and content marketing and a whole bunch of other stuff that kind of falls under that copywriting umbrella. And there are different skill sets that you use for different types of copywriting. But for today, I'm going to try and cover a few general skills and tips that will apply to most copy that you write, and hopefully will make you better at it. So one of the first key things to remember is that when you're writing, it's going to be read by a human being. Think back to that bit of copy that you had to write at the start. Can you imagine a human being that would actually want to read that? I have never met them, if there is one. So it doesn't matter what you're writing about. It could be a description for a board game or a thought leadership piece for a fintech company. It's not read by a business. It's read by an actual living human being in that business. And they don't want to read that crap. So here are a few things you might want to think about. One thing that I really like doing, and this is a bit creepy when I say it out loud, I really like listening to people talk, because I have my way of speaking, and the people I speak to regularly have their ways of speaking, but I'm not always writing to them. So when I'm on the train, on the bus, in the pub, whatever, I listen to people's conversations. Sometimes I even take notes. Don't tell me about that. People think I'm weird when I say that. But I really pay attention to how people talk on the telly, especially when people are interviewed, when it's unscripted stuff. Podcasts, how people talk on podcasts is a really good one. Listen to actual human beings who are not your people talk to each other. What words do they use? What slang do they use? What words do they miss out? What do they shorten? You're not necessarily going to write like that, but it helps you to build up a picture of how different people communicate with words in different situations. Now, there's a legendary copywriter called David Ogilvy. He's worth looking up, especially if you're interested in advertising. Think sort of Mad Men era kind of guy. But he had this thing that he'd do with his junior writers. If they brought him a piece of copy that he thought was, use a word that was too complex, this was in America, hence a Greyhound. He was sending on a Greyhound bus trip. And if they heard someone say the word on a Greyhound bus trip, they could use it. If they didn't, then they had to simplify it. So if you've ever been on the National Express, have you ever heard anyone say synergize or elevate or paradigm? Because if you haven't, they're probably words to avoid. Now, we've touched on this a little bit earlier when we talked about clarity and simplifying, but it's even more important when you're writing copy. Because this is really important. Nobody actually wants to read your copy except possibly copywriters. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, but they don't want to read it. They're not reading a novel. They just want the information that's in there, and they want to get it as quickly and as effortlessly as possible. So make it as concise as you possibly can. Keep it nice and simple. Now, the next thing you need to think about, because we were talking about writing persuasively, is what you want your reader to do. We want a result. Everything we're writing has a purpose. So if you want your reader to do something, what do you need to do? You need to tell them what you want them to do, which is another one of those things that sound really obvious when you say out loud and put it on the screen. But so many places get it completely wrong for a bunch of reasons. And one of those, and I see this an awful lot on landing pages especially, is too much choice. There'll be loads of information on the product and some great sales copy, and that's brilliant. And then you'll get to the end, book a demo, send us an email, fill in a contact form, give us a call on one of these 6 numbers for 8 different named people, none of whom I have an idea who they are. What am I supposed to do? Which one of these is for me? If you give people too much choice, they don't know what to do, so they just won't do anything. It really bugs me when I see a van and it's got 2 mobile numbers on it. It's like, well, why are you giving me 2 mobile numbers? Just give me one. I want to know which number to ring to get my house decorated. So think of that one thing that you want your users to do. One means of contact, one form to fill in. Keep it simple. If you need secondary details, if you want to have a phone number as well, I can just about live with that. But make sure that it's clear that it's secondary. Make that prime objective. And on the flip side is not giving people enough information in the calls to action. You get stuff like sign up, book now, click here, which kind of is okay if the copy leading up to it explains what's happening. But we just spoke earlier about how people don't actually read all the copy, they skip around. So what if they've just read the first paragraph and then skip to the end and all it says is click here to sign up? It's not much of an incentive, is it? So there they go. So if you say sign up to the Cadbury's newsletter, that's a much better option. If you say sign up to the Cadbury's newsletter to get chocolate news and discounts to your inbox every Tuesday morning, you're telling them exactly what they're going to get. You're being super specific, even if they haven't read any of the rest of the page. Specificity is good. We like specificity, even if we can't say it. Another key thing you really need to remember is that everything needs to come back to the user, the person you're writing to. All the time you're writing, you need to be thinking about what's in it for them. As soon as you start thinking about what's in it for you, or what's in it for the client that you're writing for, you're going to lose them. And a really good way to do this is to go through what you've written. And the first draft, absolutely fine if it does this. Go through what you've written. Every time you said we, change it to you. So I'm going to give you some examples of this. Our software simplifies tax returns becomes simplify your tax returns and save time. I didn't have it on the end. Super simple. We're not talking about a massive rewrite here. It's just a reframing of what you're trying to say, reframing it around the user. We offer a lifetime warranty becomes you're protected for life. Dead simple. So, another task time. We've got 3 on the screen for you. I've made these ones up, but they are pretty common to the kind of thing you like to see around. So, I'm going to give you, let's go with 3 minutes this time, because we're getting quite short on time. Rewrite these to frame them around the user. There's no extra challenge this time. Starting now. Feel free to use any of the other stuff we've talked about as well if you want to squeeze that in there.
Get the customer service users. Yeah, never change your batteries.
You have to be the subject.
Genes you'll want to work. What's the last one there?
Get the customer service user.
The second you will feel comfortable with it.
That's 1 minute down. How are we doing? Do you need more time or should we stop there? More time?
That's what he's chosen. All I make is
Don't die.
1 minute left. Half a minute left. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Right, has anyone come up with anything? Yeah. Does anyone have one say some?
For the final one, we got get the customer service you deserve.
Cool.
Jeans you'll want to wear for the second one, and never change your batteries.
Never change your mind. That one. Possibly a lie.
I've said it now.
Sarah, did you have your hand?
Yeah, I made the top one specific to a product or something somebody might be using. So I said, power your games for longer. Jeans so comfy you'll want to sleep in them. Service you'll come back for.
Nice.
Ah, so she come back for us.
Can tell you're a pro.
We say batteries don't die.
Batteries. Jenny's got a good one.
Keep powered for longer with, you have to put in the name with batteries.
I think the batteries one, there's loads you could do with different products. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we got to the battery one as well. You were
Nice, excellent. I thought for the jeans one, I always really like specificity in this kind of thing that really speaks to one person. So you might say something like, jeans, you'll watch Italian. Because when I'm watching Italian at night, I always put my pajamas on. Jeans, so yeah. I think the customer for art service one is probably the hardest because it's so generic. The other two you can go a lot more specific with. But yeah, some brilliant suggestions there. Top work, guys. So something I really like doing in copy is create a villain or a monster. Because something we love talking about to marketers is problems. How the reader has a problem and our amazing product is going to solve it. It's very classic marketing, right? But the problem with problems is that they're suggesting that the reader is doing something wrong, which they probably are, and they probably know they're doing something wrong, and they don't really want to be reminded of it. Being told, nah mate, you're doing that wrong, it's not getting off on the right foot. If somebody starts saying that to me, I probably wouldn't want to be their friend. So this is an example of how you can create a monster. I'll read it out for you. So the first one is a more standard. Getting your tax return wrong can cost you thousands of pounds. TaxSoft helps you avoid costly mistakes. It's putting the onus on the reader. They're making the mistake. So you switch it around. Thousands of people make this simple tax error every year. Make sure you're not one of them with TaxSoft. So you're making the tax error, the problem, the villain. It's affecting thousands of people. It's affecting the reader as well. It's not their fault. It's a horrible thing that's getting everybody. And then TaxSoft is a superhero that's going to come along and save the day. Another good way to make your reader feel like they're the most important thing, and to build trust as well, which is really important, is to be honest. Really honest, like admitting that your thing is not for everyone, honest, which kind of goes back to what I said about the jeans, watching telly, talking to a really specific person. But because there's nothing in the world that does everything. There's nothing that's perfect. Everything is a compromise. Everything has downsides. And your audience is on the internet, which they are because everybody's on the internet. All they have to do is have a quick Google and they're going to find out about the downsides and the negatives. So tell them, because they're going to find out anyway. If you talk about the downsides, if you're honest about them, you come off as being a lot more trustworthy than if you just sort of try and brush it over them. This is always a constant battle with clients because they never want to do it, but it really works. Here's a quick example of the kind of thing I mean. So we're going back to TaxSoft. TaxSoft is the ultimate tax return software. It's just hyperbole. It means nothing. So we switch it around. We say TaxSoft won't do your tax returns for you, which is true. You still have to do the work, but it will make them easier. And the key word here is but. But's a really powerful word in this context. You can start a sentence with buts and as well. It's absolutely fine. So starting with that negative, and then switching to a genuine positive, a genuine benefit is really powerful. It's a lot more powerful than just something hyperbolic with no grounded in reality. So I spoke a little bit about using a villain, and there are a few other storytelling techniques that are really powerful when you're writing copy. Any copy really, I think, to be honest. I could talk about stories all night as well, but I won't. But I do want to talk about loops. Does anyone know what I mean when I say a loop? Oh, good, I can feel really smug. So a loop is an absolutely classic storytelling technique, and once you know what it is, and you start looking, you will see them absolutely everywhere. So you open a loop when you ask a question, or when you give your reader a piece of information that makes them want to know more. And then you close a loop when you answer the question, or when they feel like they've got all the information. Loops are really powerful. If you ever watch like EastEnders, it always finishes on an open loop. So you really want to watch the next episode. A lot of books will finish a chapter opening a new loop, so you want to go on to the next one. They're super powerful because they make people want to keep reading. They make people want to know more. People are a lot less likely to navigate away from whatever it is you've written if there's a loop still open. So here's a classic example of a loop. This is actually from the BBC In-Depth website. Tech billionaires seem to be doom prepping. Should we all be worried? So it starts off with a statement that's designed to make you curious. They're doom prepping. What's that mean? What are they doing? Should we be worried? It gets your brain going. It's exactly the same thing that BuzzFeed used to do a few years ago with their ridiculous headlines that you couldn't not click. But the important thing is with this, if you go read the article, it's actually a really well written, interesting article. And that's really important. If you open a loop, if you make a promise, you really must deliver on it. Otherwise, people are just going to hate you. Show, don't tell. Oh.
Yeah. Can I just ask about
Yeah.
that? Isn't there another word called hook?
Yep, it's a
Is
very
that-
similar thing, yeah.
It's a similar thing?
You quite often use a loop in your hook. So yeah,
But the
absolutely.
hooks can be quite deceiving or something very scandalous just
It's-
to
yeah.
make people
It's the same thing. You could have dodgy hooks that hook people in and then you don't deliver on them, but you won't build a good relationship.
What are the
doing that.
ethics on that?
Don't be a dick. If you're promising people something and then you don't give them it, you're never going to build a good relationship with the client by doing that with the customer. I suppose it depends what your end goal is. If all you want to do is get people on the website and you're stopping at clicks, then yeah, it might work, but I wouldn't recommend it. Show, don't tell. So this is a classic storytelling piece of advice, and it actually works on a couple of levels, I think, when you're writing copy. So the first time is, if you're working with images, which you will be a lot of the time, don't spend ages start talking about what you can see in the image, because for the most part, people can see them, and we're trying to be concise and get the information across as quickly as possible. So talk about the stuff that people can't see in the picture. If you're selling a woolly jumper, don't talk about what the precise shade of red it is or what pattern it's got on it. Talk about how comfortable it is or how warm and snuggly it's going to be in winter. As a side note, if you are working with images, they should always have alt descriptions, alt tags for accessibility. That's really important, but it shouldn't be part of your main text. And the second meaning of show, don't tell is kind of the more classic fiction meaning. It's definitely something I've picked up from reading and writing a lot of fiction. Now, a lot of inexperienced writers, probably in fiction and copy as well, have a tendency to just go into loads of detail about everything and explain everything with loads of words. And there are times when that can work really well, depending on what it is that you're selling. But a lot of the time, letting your reader fill in the details themselves is way more powerful. Think about the scariest horror movie you've ever seen. A lot of the time, the actual horrible stuff happens off the screen, because showing you it is nowhere near as bad as making you imagine it, because your brain's really good at filling in those details. So here's an example. The man looked at me. He was very angry because he glared at me from under furrowed brows. A vein pulsed in his neck. The first one tells you exactly what's happening, but it's dull. The second one is much more visual and visceral. It immediately gets your brain painting a picture of what is happening in this sentence. So if you do the same thing when you're writing copy, get your readers' brains working, not in a hard to process way, but in a creative way. You create much more memorable copy. So, another quick activity for you. I want you to take these boring tell sentences and make them into interesting show sentences. 2 minutes for this one, starting now.
So mine to them and Sandra and Alan had a nice
His description of it sounds like
swaying your home. Yeah. Is that music?
Halfway, got a minute left.
Yeah, more sweat then you get rid of a happy.
Sandra was smiling as she was drinking.
Half a minute left.
A plate full of cookies.
It's gone really quiet now. It's the air conditioning gone off or something. 5 seconds. 2, 1. Pens down. 2 minutes was really short for that, but we are running out of time. Did anyone get anything for Sandra? Nothing at all. No beads of sweat dripping down their shoulder blades. Yeah?
Mine's slightly inappropriate. Sandra was steaming hot like a menopausal woman having a hot flush. Dancing with Alan was nearly too much for her heart.
I think we can stop there. This is really difficult because there's a million different things you could write. We could have beads of sweat pooling, we could have hot flushes. But I think it gives you an idea of the kind of thing that you need to start thinking about. I intentionally used fictionally examples here because if you're writing this kind of thing for copy, you generally need more context to be able to understand what the things are that you want to make your audience feel, which you can't really get from just a sentence, whereas we've probably all had a dance and been hot at some point. Possibly not as hot as Sandra, but... Now, I did promise there wasn't going to be any English teacher stuff in here, but there are a couple of things that I really need to mention. So, does anyone know what an adverb is?
He said excitedly.
I am a nerd when it comes to words. Anyone?
Something to describe a verb that you use, or to add additional context.
Exactly. Yeah. It's basically a modified word. I have to been a long night. A modified word. It modifies a verb. So, for example, you might say she walked quickly across the road. Quickly is the adverb here. It modifies walking. So we know she's walking quickly instead of just walking slowly, which is fine. It adds more context, which is good. Except generally, adverbs make your copy less concise and can generally weaken it as well. Stephen King is quite a famous writer. You might have heard of him. He's written a few books. Once said, "The road to hell is paved with adverbs." He might know what he's talking about. I don't know. So how could we switch this, change this around to take the adverb out of it? We can't just remove it in this case because the quickly bit is important. How could we change it? Anybody?
She hurried.
Perfect. Yep. I went with rushed, but hurried is exactly the same. There's probably about 20 words you could put in there to get slightly different nuances of why she's walking quickly across the road. But it gives a better picture of what's happening. Rush actually gives us a lot more context than walks quickly. Rush makes us feel like she's maybe a bit harassed. She's in a hurry for a reason. So keep an eye out for adverbs in your copy, and if you can replace them with something better, do so. But what you might actually find in copy is that adverbs just aren't there. They aren't needed. They just add words for the sake of it. You think you're adding urgency or excitement, but actually you're just removing clarity. Like, our software is incredibly efficient. Actually, our software is efficient. Pretty much says exactly the same thing. Incredibly is just, again, it's hyperbole. Does anyone know what I mean when I say passive voice? No. So, this is another advice that you see quite often. People say, oh, you should definitely not use passive voice, and then they don't explain it because it's quite difficult to explain. So I'm going to try. There are two kinds of voice in this context, passive voice and active voice. In a passive voice sentence, something is done to the subject of the sentence. In an active voice sentence, the subject does something. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. This is passive voice. The salad is a subject of a sentence. The action, the eating, is done by John to the salad. And it doesn't sound great, does it? So, to switch it to active voice, John ate the salad. We've made John the subject of a sentence. He is doing the eating to the salad. And it sounds generally much better. And another one I really like, this is one of my favourite things I like to do with copy, is what I call the so what test. Loads of copywriters will talk about this. The idea is that you take a feature or a benefit of the thing you're writing about, and you put yourself in the shoes of the customer, and you say, so what? Tax off is efficient. So what? Tax off saves you time. So what? Tax off lets you spend more time on the stuff you want to be doing. And you can go down, you can so what for so many levels, it's unbelievable. I just kind of ran out of space on the screen. Apple were absolute masters of doing this. So a few years ago, before Spotify, before streaming, we had what were called MP3s. And most companies, they were talking about our MP3 player has 5 gig of storage. Apple looked at it and they said, well, no, because that's really techie. It's great for techie people, but we don't want to just sell to techie people. We want to sell to normal people. So 5 gigabytes of storage, they so whatted it. So what? 1,000-pound songs in my pocket. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. And this is in the days of mini discs and portable CD players. So 1,000 songs in your pocket is a big thing. Obviously now you've got the entire world of music in your pocket. But so we've probably just about got time for one last activity. And I'm going to be super quick with it. You'll have 1 minute for this one. So I want you to so what this Dropbox statement. But I'm going to give you a little bit more context because I'm not completely crow. I want you to imagine that your target audience is Janet. I don't know what I have with middle-aged lady names. Janet is 53 years old. She's got an old Samsung mobile phone. She's recently become a grandmother, and her son sends her lots of pictures and videos of her granddaughter. She wants to look at them on a laptop, but it's a real faff to transfer them across. 1 minute, go.
Yeah, there's
Other grandchildren. Very useful.
photos, videos, and more.
You can view those photos whenever you want.
Half a minute. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Right, did anyone get anything in that ridiculously short time?
Yes.
Yep. What do we get?
Don't lose your precious photos.
Nice, love it. Anything else? Anyone else?
See the grandkids' pictures whenever you want.
Love it.
A photo album you won't need to carry.
Oh, I like that.
Memories at your fingertips.
Oh, you guys are smashing it tonight. I mean, I have some ideas for this, but I'm not going to bother because I pretty much nailed it. So, that's me done. I've just about made it by 8 o'clock. Thank you for coming, thank you for listening, I hope it's been useful. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. If you scan that code, it takes a Google Doc which has got a bunch of people that you might want to follow, some resources and stuff which I may add to in the future, I might not promising. I was going to say at this point, has anyone got any questions, but I think we might need to get out now, so we might have to do questions in the pub.
If there is any burning questions,
On my app it says no LinkedIn code was detected.
It's not LinkedIn.
It's not LinkedIn.
It's just, it should, if you do it in your general QR code app, it should take you to Google Doc, which has
Oh,
got
okay.
it's got my LinkedIn and various other bits and
Bad
bobs.
question then.
Like some really good copywriters to follow.
Yes, sorry.
It was a good question though. That one really worked in the book.
Any sort of burning questions? If not, I'm sure we can pick up later.
Which pub?
Sorry?
Which pub?
The most important question.
Sanctuary bar?
Sanctuary bar.
Sanctuary bar.
Oh,
Sanctuary
that's
bar. The one on site.
Yeah.
The one on site. Will, just to say a really big thank you from all of us. That was honestly, that was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I don't write copy like you write copy, but I think most people have to write some form of copy as part of their roles, whether it's emails or whether it's advertising copy. So, and it really is an art form, and I think you proved that tonight. Just in terms of some of the things, there's hints and tips in terms of the clarity, the tools, some of the AI tools really, really useful, some of the pitfalls of AI. So I know it's sort of dominating our world at the moment, AI, so it's really good to sort of bring that back to the human contact. So again, some of those things that just reminders of who's at the end of that copy was really useful. So thank you again, Will, for everything. Just a few extra bits and pieces just to talk about before we close off. If you have any comments, obviously there's Will's here to talk to later on. If you have any comments, please put them onto LinkedIn, or any feedback or anything like that. Ideally positive ones on LinkedIn, but it helps us to promote our events as well. So if there is anything you do want to raise for improvements, then we're all around after this. So do come and talk to us about some of the things that you might want to see in the future, or things that we could be doing better. So we will take criticism as well as positive comments. Again, I think Peter already mentioned the sponsors, so thank you again to the university for hosting us tonight. And as always, we are always after sponsors. We're sort of having to sort of beg, borrow and steal at the moment for things like refreshments. So if anybody does want to get in front of an audience 6 times a year of sort of 40 or 50 marketers and small businesses, or via 1,000 followers on our Facebook, then we can talk to you about some of the things and some of the packages that we've got for sponsorship. So do come and have a chat with us. Our next event, I think Peter mentioned it, is the 25th of November. It's back here at the university, and it's on marketing trends. So lots and lots of things. It's going to be very interactive. It's going to be a hackathon. So be prepared to participate. But we'll be talking about AI. We'll be talking about authenticity. We'll be talking about attention. We'll be talking about misinformation. All those sorts of things that are really kind of trends at the moment, but also trends going into 2026. So lots and lots of insights and discussion will take place at that one. So as I said, 25th of November, it's on the Eventbrite page already, so feel free to just log on and register, and that's free of charge, of course. So just a final thank you, Will. I've got you a little bottle of wine, just to say thank you from all of us.
You didn't have to do that.
We are going to pop down to the sanctuary, so if anybody wants to hang around and just have a chat and catch up on things, or ask Will some questions, we'll just be going down there. So we'll probably just file over together in case anybody doesn't know where it is. So we'll just meet downstairs in the foyer. So thank you, appreciate it.